Hello, folks. Welcome to Queen Storytellers. I'm your host, David Lawson. This is episode 4 of 10 of this series we are presenting with the Queen's Theater, in which 5 writers and performers on each episode from various writing and performing backgrounds come on here and they perform stories about things that actually happen to them. Really excited for this bill of performers for you this week, so let's get right to it. Our first performer that we're going to be hearing from has a comedy album, Not the Gym Teacher, that's available wherever you find audio or music of any kinds these days. Kelly Dunham is going to be our first performer. She's going to be performing a story about doing really badly at a dance audition. Our second performer this week has won the Moth Story Slam. He is going to be performing a story about being a teaching artist at an elementary school and having to deal with a student who has a reputation for throwing desks. Neil Intraub is going to be our second performer this week. After Neil Intraub, we are going to have Mark Abbott, who has been a Moth Grand Slam winner. Mark's going to be telling a story about how human love and cat love really make for a whole lot of love. Our second to last performer this week has taught writing at Kingsborough Community College for over 20 years. Rana Levy is going to be performing a story about how she lost her cell phone in the very early and very uncertain days of the COVID-19 outbreak. This week's episode of Queen Storytellers is going to be ending with Anita Flores, who hosts the podcast I'm Listening that is all about the television show Frasier. Anita is going to be telling a story of her accidentally destroying something of her friends, something that was very, very important. And that's what we have to look forward to on this episode of Queen Storytellers. Again, this is episode 4 of 10. So if you like what you see tonight, you can go back and watch those 3 previous episodes. You can check out all the great stuff happening here at Queen's Theater at queenstheater.org, or you can like them on Facebook, Queen's Theater on Facebook. That's theater with an R-E. But let's get to it, folks. Really excited, as always, for these 5 performers this week. I'm your host, David Lawson. Let's get it started. Enjoy Queen Storytellers.
So when I was in high school, my mom, who was a very good Christian lady, she begged and pleaded and cajoled and saved her money and then finally ordered me to go to Warner Christian Academy. I suppose she was hoping that she could put off some of the queerness that she clearly could see coming down the road. So Warner Christian Academy was the last word, but there was nothing academic about them. Most of the teachers were not certified in anything. We used exclusively Bob Jones textbooks, and I can remember a specific question on a civics exam that was, name 5 ways in which America came along at God's time in God's way as a blessing to the world. And it was not an ironic question. It was not a parody. And ha, 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 ha was not the right answer. Also, there are rules like the boys couldn't wear parachute pants because it was the 80s, because they said it was unhygienic, which is a weird way of saying doesn't hide a little boy boner, you know? And then in my senior year, they made a rule that girls could not wear flannel shirts over a t-shirt. Obviously, this is a rule that was added to the student handbook just for me. And so Warner Christian Academy was an ENDE, an enforced non-dancing environment. Yes, like the movie Footloose. We did not have a senior prom. We had a junior-senior banquet, which was exactly as boring as it sounds. And we could actually get kicked out of school for having contact with an establishment that was established for the purposes of dancing. So I went to an ENDE, or I lived in an ENDE experience, just like the students in Footloose. But I don't know if you know, at the end of Footloose, all that it took was a converted feed store and some confetti and a lot of 80s decorations, and Kevin Bacon saying, "I thought this was a party, let's dance," for the folks to go from their ENDE into dancing. And I don't mean like regular awkward teenage dancing, like professional dancing, like doing backflips dancing. Like, oh, let's all form a chorus line together and do, in our high heels, a choreographed dancing. So I think that somehow that seeped into my unconsciousness and subconscious. And even though I never learned how to dance, I believed that if I needed to, somehow I would be able to. When I came out in the 90s, I had a big queen of a friend who he thought the very first queer thing for me to do would be to go with him to a lesbian bar. The particular lesbian bar he chose was Meow Mix, now defunct, beautiful, huge lesbian bar full of dancing lesbians. He pulled me onto the dance floor with him, and remember, growing up in an ENDE, I had to like shuffle through my Rolodex of what do I do on a dance floor. It was the 90s, so I probably shuffled through my Palm Pilot of what do you do on the dance floor. And the only thing I could think of was, like the Peanuts gang, like, put your hands out, straight out, jump up and down and do your head side to side. If you want to clear a 90s dance floor at a big lesbian crowd, definitely do the Snoopy dance. That is a good way to not have a girlfriend for about a decade. Then when I started performing stand-up comedy, I performed in La Crosse, Wisconsin Pride, which was Pride was run by drag queens who were simultaneously extremely maternal and very, very tough. So one of the drag queens, after I performed, it was, late at night and they're playing, "Please don't stop the music." And I'm like, "Oh, please stop the music. Please, I really wish you would stop the music." And she pulled me onto the floor and said, "Everyone can dance." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I believe everyone can dance." And so after 20 minutes of non-consensual dance lessons, she looked at me and sighed for a really long time. And she said, "I usually tell people that everyone can dance because all you have to do is listen to the drum, but you're dancing to all the instruments." So I had a little respite from that until I answered an audition call. It was for a cabaret show, and it was when I just started performing and I wasn't that familiar with the language of audition notices. So I went in and I performed in a small black box theater, just like two minutes of stand-up. And then the folks who were auditioning me said, "Well, can you move?" When they said move, I thought they meant like, can I, if I am in one position, then therefore move to another position? And I said, "Well, yeah." And they said, "Okay, well then go through this curtain and we'll go to the next step." I walked through the curtain to the next step and found that I was on a very large stage in a very large theater. There was one man who I now know is a very famous New York choreographer sitting in the front row, and there were lots of very thin, muscular people, young, muscular people stretching out. It looked like a scene from Chorus Line. And I was like, why are they stretching? Wait, what's going? And then the music started, and they started to count, and then everyone was dancing. And because everyone was dancing, I also attempted to dance in the way as much as I could to follow the movements. And within 30 seconds, I had actually physically knocked over one of the male dancers with my flailing. The very famous New York choreographer stood up and crumpled up his papers and threw them over his shoulders and said, "What the hell is going on here?" And so I quietly crept away. And I think they learned something that day about differentiating between dance and movement. And I learned that no matter how much confidence in yourself you have, it's just not true. Everybody cannot dance. Thank you.
I'm a teaching artist. I work with a partner. I've been working with him for, like 35 years. And we work with New York City public school students. And what we do is we help them to learn how to work as a group, to work as a team, to really understand what it means to concentrate and to cooperate, to listen at a very high level, and ultimately, like, to establish a sense of agreement and trust. It takes a lot of work, and we're really good at it. We're really fun. But we met our match like a couple of years ago up in the Bronx. It was a first grade class. I will never forget. We walk into class, and the first thing we see is this kid. He's about to throw a desk, and his name is Nana, and he's recently immigrated from Africa. He is whip smart, very thoughtful, but completely out of control. He throws the desk. It incites a riot. Kids start pummeling each other. They start chasing each other, running around the classroom like we don't know what to do. And the teacher, she's putting out fires. She's like grabbing desks out of kids' hands. She's threatening to call parents. She's taking points away. Like they care. And we step in. We do a couple of exercises and we leave. We come back 2 days later. Same scene. Nana throws a desk. Kids are wailing on each other. There are absolutely no consequences. I mean, threatening to, take them to the principal's office, to them, it's like a mini vacation. It means absolutely nothing. But the change here, we notice that the teacher is just sort of floating between the desks with this little calm smile on her face, as if she's unaware of what's going on. And she reminds me of Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now, with all the bombs going off. He's totally oblivious. We step in, do a couple of exercises, and we leave. We come back the following Monday. Teacher quit. She's gone. Same scene. Nana is the instigator. And we feel so bad for the substitute teacher because she's just standing. It's like in the corner of the room. She's just biting her nails. She has no idea what to do. So Paul and I look at each other, and we got to do something. Amidst the chaos, we conjure this like Nietzschean will to power. And we do our exercises. And lo and behold, they're working with us. It's unbelievable. They're cooperating. But out of the corner of my eye, I see Nana. He is coiled and ready to hurl a desk. We've never dealt with this before. We don't know what to do. And I don't know, it was like I was hit with like divine inspiration. I just started telling Twilight Zone stories. And this eerie quiet descends upon the classroom. And the kids just sort of migrate and sit on the floor in front of me. Even Nana, he puts his desk down. He sits right at my feet and he just looks up at me. And like, I'm about to tell these stories and I feel like Scheherazade. It's like, I better tell a good one or they're going to kill me. These guys are tough. So I tell classic Twilight Zones. I tell Nightmare at 20,000 feet. That's the one of them with William Shatner. I tell To Serve Man. Then I tell one of these obscure ones. It's an hour-long one. It's called On Thursday, We Leave for Home. This one stars James Whitmore, the great character actor. And apparently, the spaceship crashed on this planet 30 years before, and he's their leader. And he's an amazingly skilled leader. And what he does is he sort of navigates through this horrendous landscape. There are these lightning storms. He herds his people into these caves where he's a storyteller. He regales them with stories about Earth. Now, mind you, most of these people now have been born on this planet, so they have no idea about Earth. They only know it through his eyes. And what he does is, it seems so simple. He talks to them about the night sky, and he describes it, or a summer breeze. And they're enthralled, and it instills them with a sense of hope. Well, eventually another spaceship lands, and apparently they have 48 hours to pack everything up and to go back to Earth. And this is their last chance. Now, the leader is feeling a bit ambivalent about this because he figures back on Earth, it's like he's just going to be an obsolete old man, and he doesn't want to give up his power. And so he demands that back on Earth, they have to live in a colony with him as their leader, and they vote him down. And he gets very sullen, and he decides that he's going to stay on the planet by himself. He's very stubborn. And they plead with him, but no, he sort of runs and hides in this cave. And as the spaceship starts to take off, in his imagination, he is talking to his people. And once again, he is regaling them with stories about Earth, but this time he really remembers. He's not doing it by rote, and he actually can see the night sky, and he can smell the summer breeze. And he is hit with this wave of homesickness, and he runs outside the cave, and he sees the spaceship taking off, and he screams, "No, please, come back. Don't leave me here. I want to go home." Well, I look at the class, and they are shell-shocked. I mean, they are slack-jawed. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do? They're first graders. Like maybe I've overstepped. And Nana, he leans forward, and with this sort of pleading look in his eye, he says, "Yeah, but they're going to come back for him, right?" And for that moment, I remembered all the desks he's thrown. And I say, "No, they won't." He says, "Why?" I said, "Because he wasn't listening." And he gets all quiet and reflective. And then we do team building exercises, and he joins in, and it's really fun. And he's actually amazing and very cooperative. And then we leave. And 2 days later, we come back. We enter the class. Nana, of course, is about to throw a desk. He sees me. He puts the desk down. He comes up to me, and he taps me on the thigh. And he looks up at me with this look I'll never forget. He goes, "Yeah, but he could build his own rocket ship, right?" And I look down at him and I say, "Yeah, Nana, he can build his own rocket ship."
Hey, so my story is a little bit very interesting to say the least. It has to do with two individuals who became roommates, for lack of the better term, my wife and my cat Hobbs. So how this all happened, when my wife and I first met, I never mentioned I had a cat. And she was never really a big cat person. We never really discussed the situation until she first came over to my apartment to visit me. And Hobbs he was a people cat. He let people know whether he liked them or not. If he didn't like you, he would yowl. He would maybe hiss. He had a way about him. One of the things I remember fondly about him is during the time my wife and I were dating, I was putting together a play, and how the actors in the play would find out whether or not they were doing well was that Hobbs would sit in on the rehearsals. And if Hobbs got up in the middle of the rehearsal and left the room, you knew that the performance was not good. If he turned on his way out the door and went, you knew that it was awful. We had to start all over again. We had to start from the top. So that was just the kind of cat he was. And the very first time Ben came over to visit me, Hobbs was in another room. He didn't even know anybody was in the apartment, and I was showing her around and my movie collection, and we're looking at all of my collectibles. And she turns around and she goes, "I'm sorry, is that a cat?" And Hobbs walked in and he's looking at her, and I was like, well, yeah, I own cats. And she's like, huh. I'm not a big fan of cats. Like, okay. I said, well, he's here. He's pretty much a lazy loafer. He hangs out in the house, and but if we'll see. And that's how I usually judged people, by Hobbes's response to them. And in the beginning, Hobbes didn't really know what to make of her. He kind of he didn't really go to her. He kind of just wandered around. He would check her out for the most part, but he would always sit in my lap and he would just watch her from afar. And Ben would never touch him. She just was sort of like, he's cute, but cats are not me. But as the relationship started to grow, and it became very clear that Ben was not a person that was just going to be haphazardly coming by, their relationship started to change. And eventually, when she got keys to the apartment and she would come over on the weekends, she would meet me. She would be here before I got home, and Hobbes would always rush to the door to make sure whenever I came home, because he was hungry. And originally Ben was like, well, I came in and he was crying and I didn't know what to do. And I would always say, well, you know what, feed him. Just go ahead. I think he trusts you. And she would feed him. And then I would always suggest, well, you should pet him because, just kind of get the use so that he get used to you. And it was an off and on thing. She really wasn't sure whether or not the cat liked her. He wasn't really sure whether or not this person was going to be a part of our lives, but they seemed to get along and they were fine. But eventually we would get engaged and we would get married, and that changed the scope of things because now this person who was here part-time was now full-time. And Hobbes had the run of the house during the day. He slept in the bed, he slept on the couch, he did whatever he wanted to do. And Ben came to me and she said, well, we're going to have to change some things. I'm allergic to cat hair and he cannot sleep in the bed with us. You're going to have to figure out what to do about that. And the other thing is he's all over the couch. There's cat hair all over the couch. We're going to have to do something. And I said, well, I don't know what you want me to do. He's been here X amount of years. Nothing I say to this cat, he's going to listen to. He's just, that's him. And one day I came home and I found Hobbes sitting in the corner. He wasn't on the couch. He would wait till I sat down and then he would jump in my lap. And Ben came in and she said, we had a conversation. I was like, I'm sorry, what? She said, we had a conversation. We had to come to some understanding about him being on the furniture. And we had a conversation in the kitchen while I was feeding him. I'm like, let me get this straight. You and Hobbes had a conversation. She goes, yes. And I think we came to an impasse. We understand each other. He will not be getting on the furniture anymore. He will not be climbing on. And he didn't. I couldn't figure out. I don't know what she said to him. To this day, she has never told me what she said to this cat. But she made it very clear to him that he was not to get on the furniture, and he literally would circumvent furniture to come to me. Normally he would climb on the back of the couch and then jump in my lap. He stopped doing that. And over time, the two of them developed this very interesting relationship where they would share their time with me. And he never seemed bothered with her sitting right next to us on the couch. He would often sit between us. Sometimes he attempted on a couple of occasions to bond with her in the sense that of jumping in her lap or trying to get her to pet her. But there was still this, she was allergic to him. So they kind of kept their distance. Then one day I came home and I found him at the bottom of the stairs. He was looking very, very weak. He was not moving well. And Ben came home and I said, well, there's something wrong and I don't know what it is. And she looked at him. She said, well, maybe you need to take him to the vet. And we took him to the vet and they didn't know what was wrong with him. They checked him in. They had him in a cage. And the next day, vet calls me and she goes, well, we're not sure what's going on with him. He's not eating. He's very weak. He's very lethargic. I think we're going to try and do some x-rays. And I was like, well, maybe that should have been the first thing you did to find out what was wrong with him. And they find inside of him one of those hair ties, round, sort of like rubber band type hair ties. And it looked like apparently what he did was he climbed up on the table, he found one and he started chewing on it and he swallowed it. And it got caught up in his intestines. So he had to do emergency surgery. And in the beginning, I explained to Ben what happened, and she seemed fine, except when he came home, he had suffered a stroke, and he wasn't moving about. He wasn't his usual chipper self, and we had to relegate him to the hallway. He couldn't come in the apartment anymore. And Ben apologized. He said, I'm so sorry for this. I didn't realize that he would get into my stuff. And I said, no, it's nobody's fault. That's what cats do. The vet even told us they've had dogs who swallowed ski gloves come in and they had to extract these things. So it was one of those things. But as time went on, it was very clear he wasn't going to get any better. And I did not have it in me to put him down. I changed vets. The doctor told me, well, there's really nothing you can do. It's neurological problem. He'll be fine. But I noticed that Ben was getting more upset over time. Not upset in the sense of being upset over the fact that I wouldn't put him down, but she felt sorry for him. And their bond grew a little bit closer. And oftentimes I caught her petting him and trying to keep him in comfort. And eventually we would let him back in the apartment and he would get up on the furniture. And I would panic because I'm like, Benda, and she said, no, let him be comfortable. And oftentimes she'd feed him. And at one point I went away for a weekend and she took care of him. She fed him, she pet him, she changed the wee-wee pads in the hallway because at this point he just was going to the bathroom all the time. He just couldn't make it to the cat box. And one morning, Ben comes to me and she says, I've got to go to work today. I've got to go in on a Saturday. You might want to check on Hobbs. I went out into the hallway and he was laying inside of his cat carrier. And I think that's usually an indication he knows he needs to go to the doctor. And I said, okay, I'll take a look at him. And she went off to work and I go out in the hall to check on him. And I reach into the carrier and I said, hey, buddy, I guess we should make a trip to and Hobbs was gone. He was stone cold. There was no warmth to him anymore. And I did what I guess most pet owners would do when you realize your pet has passed on. I panicked. I thought maybe if I rush him to the doctor real quick, I could revive him. But really it was the brain had to process he was gone. And I took him out into the yard and it was pouring raining this day. And I dug a hole and I buried him. And the second I put the last part of dirt on his grave, the sun came out. And I went in the house and I called Ben and I said, I have some terrible news. Hobbs wasn't sleeping. He passed. And she was beside herself. And she cried and she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought he was asleep. I'm so sorry. And I said, no, don't worry about it. I was like, I'm at peace at the fact that he went in his sleep at home, that this was not something we had to take him to the vet and put him down. And about a year later, I was taking a friend home, and on my way home, I'm walking back, and there's this cat in the street. And I tried to pet him, and the cat just, he wasn't having it. He didn't want to be touched or anything. But he started to follow me home. And every so often I'd look back, and this cat's maybe about a couple of feet behind me, and he's meowing, and I go back to comfort him, but he doesn't want to be touched. And he follows me back all the way back to my apartment. And I stop on the stairs, and I turn around and I say, hey, look, I said, I think I know what you want, but it's not going to happen. I can't take you home. My wife's allergic to cats. I don't know what you want from me. And the cat just kind of looks at me and turns around and makes his way back up the street. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I go in the house and I tell Ben what happened. And she says to me, you know what today is? And I said, no, it's March, such and such. I was like, why? She goes, Hobbs died a year ago today. And I was like, I really hadn't, thought about it. I mean, Facebook, of course, reminds you of these things after you post them, that a year ago, we want you to have fond memories of this date. Wasn't much of a fond memory, but I was like, oh, well, okay. And she said, you know what I think? I think that was Hobbs. Or I think in some way that cat followed you home to make sure you got home safe. And I said, I really hadn't thought of it that way. And in hindsight, when I think about it, it is an interesting observation that this cat, whether it was Hobbs himself or whether it was some kind of connection, because they often say that cats have the ability to see between worlds, whether or not Hobbs sent this cat to follow me to make sure I got home okay. But that's not the interesting part about that. The interesting part is that the one person who never truly liked cats somehow saw between two worlds that this animal was looking out for me, and that his memory would always be with us. Thank you.
So it's March 12th, 3 months ago, and 7:30 in the morning, and I'm leashing up my dog to go to the dog park. And I noticed that my upstairs neighbor, my dog walking buddy, has sent me a text that says, as of 8 p.m. tonight, all restaurants and bars are closed. Now, that doesn't really affect me, but my neighbor and I had a plan to walk the dog and then go out for a drink. And I had this brilliant idea. I'm thinking, well, why don't we just go to dinner and support a local restaurant instead? So I'm going to let her know, but I got to get to the park. So I'm walking up to the park, and I take out my phone and I try to text her, but I got my gloves on, I got the dog on a leash, and it's too awkward. So I put my phone away. I wait till I get to the park and my hands are free. My dog's playing, I'm standing in the park, and I go for my phone, but I can't find it. I check all my pockets, I can't find my phone. So I figure, okay, it's just in the grass somewhere, I'm not that nervous, I can't find it. So I ask one of the dog moms who's standing next to me if she'll just call my number so maybe I can hear it ring, and she does. No phone. I'm a little bit nervous, so I say, listen, can you just watch my dog? I'm gonna go trace my steps out to the entrance of the park and see if I can find my phone. So I start walking, and now I'm getting nervous because I know that there's this virus, and what if I have to call the doctor, or what if I have to call an ambulance, or what if I want to call my family? I can't be without a phone. And then I remember the Apple store just closed for like 2 weeks. So how am I going to get a phone? And I'm starting to get really, really panicky right now. And I start doing that thing where like you make a deal with God, like, please, God, please let me just find my phone. I promise I won't steal any gel pens from work. Just please let me find my phone. And then I start like convincing myself that I'm a really good person. Like last week when I got my Visa bill, I thought I had a fraudulent charge, and I called Visa and I said, I don't know where this is charged from. And they said, fine, don't pay it. It's okay. And I'm so honest and so good that I called Visa back. I recognized the charge and I paid it. So I'm so good. So why can't I find my phone? And I can't find it. And I get back to the park and I'm really, really nervous, but my dog mom friend got a call. Somebody picked up my phone, saw her number, called back. And this lady has my phone. She's at Mount Sinai up on 99th Street in Manhattan. And I'm in Brooklyn. So now I start getting nervous. I have to go up to Manhattan, but I know that I have a Zoom meeting from 1 to 2 because we're changing to online at the school, and I have to go through this training. So that means I won't get out of the house till 2. I've got like a 45-minute ride downtown, and I start getting worked up, like I've got all these things and I don't think I can do it. And I start feeling like I'm in the 2nd grade when Mrs. Sheriff put 7 questions on the board, and I started to cry in my seat because I didn't think I could do it all. But I do. I get home, I go to my Zoom, I get my stuff together, I walk to the subway, and I want to buy this lady something. And I stop at the cookie store, and I'm going to get her a dozen cookies. And as the guy's giving them to me, he says, do you have a peanut allergy? I'm going to kill this lady with peanuts, not the virus. So I don't know. I just take the cookies. And of course, New York's Manhattan, Brooklyn would have started no more bags. So now I've got this box of cookies that I'm trying to balance. I have to get on the subway, and I know I'm not like supposed to touch anything. So I'm sitting on the subway. I'm trying not to touch the poles, and I'm holding this box, and I'm so focused that I get off 2 stops before I need to get there. So now I got to walk 20 blocks with a box of cookies. I get up there, I see the lady, she's very sweet. I get my phone, I give her the cookies. She doesn't have a peanut allergy, and I get home and everything's good. And I have my phone, and my neighbor and I, we walk our dogs, and we go to that local restaurant like I said we should do. And we get in there, and we don't have masks yet. And we're not really sure what to do, so we kind of wipe our forks down with our napkins, and we rub hand sanitizer all over our hands, and we just have this really nice dinner, and we tip the waiter really nicely because we know that he's going to be out of work right now for a couple weeks. I got everything done. I just need to slow down. I know I can do it all, and I did it. Thank you.
So I was led to believe by film and television that cocaine is a classy drug. I watched the same 20 minutes of Scarface on TNT probably 2 to 3 times leading up to high school. And essentially what I learned about the cocaine experience is there's a lot of silk involved, white silk, white robes, silver trays. Well, cocaine's also white. It's very white. It's a very white drug. And so, and that was sort of my thoughts around cocaine growing up. And that also, cocaine was also this kind of gateway drug, not in the way that they teach you in school, as in, oh, it's a drug, it leads you to somewhere bad, but more of like, it leads you to wealth. It leads you to what I imagine exists, which is a secret bunker for the 1%. So I figure, what is, if I or someone I know is doing cocaine, it means that I am one step closer to getting the secret password to the underground bunker for the 1%. So that was sort of my mindset around cocaine. And keep in mind that not only was I was raised by TV. So I was raised by film, I was raised by television, and I was also by the time I got to college, I would say I was inexperienced in a number of ways, whether it be drug related, sex related, just all of the above. So when I was invited to my first house party in New York, I'd consider a late bloomer. I was 22 years old. And let's travel back to that simpler time. I'm 22 years old. I am still a proud virgin. Thank you very much. And I have an undiagnosed anxiety disorder. Some examples of this undiagnosed anxiety disorder are when I went to the gynecologist, and if you're a man and you've been lucky enough never to have a pap smear, congratulations. When that was attempted, as soon as I put my feet in the stirrups that they put you in, I started to have a panic attack. And for some reason, my gynecologist had a juice box for me, and we did some breathing exercises together. So that's where I was at 22. That's where I am at 22. And so, keeping all this in mind, I go to a house party. I'm 22 years old, and it's one of those great New York parties. New York parties for me means there's snacks and there's people smoking cigarettes inside the apartment, which is very Sex and the City for me, and that's a dangerous show to watch as a 22-year-old woman living in New York City. So at this party, I am absolutely honored when the host of this party, who is a friend, neighboring on acquaintance, she asks me in her bedroom, hey, are you cool if we do cocaine in here? We being her and a gentleman who very much looks like he will one day go to prison for insider trading. Very, I don't know if anyone watching this has ever used the app Tinder, but I noticed for me when I was on Tinder, a lot of the men on there were kind of Wall Street looking types, very like American Psycho kind of vibe. That's the vibe I was getting from her friend / drug dealer. So I'm in the bedroom with her at this party. She says, well, actually, would you want to do cocaine? And, my life is flashing before my eyes. The life that I could have is flashing before my very eyes in terms of, is this my entrance in? But then I start kind of circling back to this whole anxiety issue I have. And I realize, do I need to dial this up? Probably not, and what I'm really realizing at this moment at 22 is actually anxiety is nature's cocaine. You don't need to do real cocaine. If you have an anxiety disorder, you have looping thoughts. That's cocaine, baby, in my mind. So I decide, after thinking it over in my head in the bedroom, I'm not going to do cocaine, but I am going to watch. I'm going to watch people do cocaine. And wouldn't you know it, there's a bowl of popcorn in the bedroom. I'm ready for my front row seats to real life Scarface. And so then my friend and her drug dealer begin doing cocaine. And very quickly I am seeing this is not the classy event that I thought it would be. There is no tray. There is no silver tray. I also imagine there would be $100 bills, maybe a Black American Express card involved. I don't know if you've ever held a Black American Express card. I have, through my time working as a cheesemonger. It's absolutely intoxicating. It's a card that I suspect has metal on the inside, so it's going to be very difficult for like a waiter. Like, granted, I've only seen this on TV, but like cutting that card, it's going to be tough. There is no Black American Express card. What we've got is a $1 bill for the snorting, and we've got a Metro card for the lining up the cocaine. I don't know. Maybe that's how, that's the drug lingo. I'm not sure. And also, after they each snort a line, they each have what I'd like to call Coke boogers. You don't see that in the movies, kids, and it's not pretty. And I'm quickly very uncomfortable. I realize I have no place in this room. I'm not a fan of what's going on. And so I leave the room. And, you know, when I'm at a party and I'm uncomfortable, generally my move is to move towards the snacks. But we're in a dangerous situation now because it's very late. We're like talking 2:30 in the morning. To me, this is late as a 32-year-old woman now. We're at the point in the party where people are not, there are no more mixers. There are no more red Solo cups. People are drinking Jameson out of mugs. People are continuing to smoke cigarettes. But now we're seeing, you know, people ashing on the carpet. Like, it's definitely that time of the night. And I have nowhere to put my grubby hands because there is no food left. But fortunately, like a shining beacon of light, I do see a white bakery box on the table among many empty plates where there had been pigs in a blanket. Shout out to anyone who has pigs in a blanket at their party. It's a great staple food, in my opinion. And this box is taped shut, which means this isn't for me. Or is it? No one's paying attention. People are drinking, people are smoking, apparently doing cocaine in the bedroom. So this is really my opportunity to shine and kill time. I'm waiting. I'm a dutiful friend, as you must be when you are a young lady at a party. You need to stick together. So I'm waiting for a friend of mine who's trying to get the phone number of a young man that she's talking to. So I open this box up. I got to do a little rip. I don't even try and gently take the tape off. And I'm presented with a absolutely gorgeous piece of cake, finely decorated, great attention to detail. But there are no forks around. There's no knives. There's no spoons. And I'm very anxious and I need something to do with my hands that is not cocaine. And so I just go for it. I mean, hands into this cake. And it really looks like a bloodbath, truly, because this cake has a jelly filling. It is really like, I don't know if no one eats a jelly donut and like rips it and like lets the jelly like, you know, get all over their hands. It's disturbing imagery. And, but at this point, I'm just glad to be doing something. And so nobody notices, which is great because you're an afterthought when people are drunk at a party and you're like, what's happening over there? Oh, some girl eating cake with her bare hands. And fortunately, my friend, she has gotten the phone number she wanted. It's time for us to leave. There are no napkins. And I'm trying not to get icing on the doorknob. So I think the best course of action here is to use the wall as my napkin. And I wipe my jelly-colored hand on the wall as I leave this party. And all I can imagine, even though this is not going to happen, but if like a cop showed up, that's my calling card. It's just a handprint of jelly. And they just go like, that's Flores. So, so some time goes by, probably a few weeks, and I end up hanging out with this friend who hosted the party. And I decide to come clean about the shameful thing that I have done. And I say to her, just so you know, I'm the one that ate this cake. I'm the one that, you know, left a handprint on your wall. I'm sorry. That was gross. And the look on her face is an interesting combination. It seems like a bit of shock, a bit of amusement. And she says to me, oh, that was you. You're the one that ate Zach and Tina's wedding cake. Now, let's go back for a second and go back to a grand tradition that apparently I didn't know about until I turned 22, which is that sometimes when people get married, they save a piece of their wedding cake. Then they put it in the freezer, wait a year. It's 1 year anniversary time. They take this piece of cake out, go to a nice restaurant, strangely don't eat the cake, which I think is what you're supposed to do. And then they leave it on a table at a party with college students. I am absolutely, after I learned this information that I've eaten someone's wedding cake and pooped out their memories, I am devastated. I am ashamed. I'm like kind of have my shirt over my head. I'm like holding back tears because I can't believe what I've done. But after many years of reflection, I have a very different mindset now, which is I don't feel guilty at all. And here's why. If you're going to bring any kind of food to a party, I would say it's going to get eaten. So I would say to any newlyweds out there or anyone considering practicing this very classic tradition, do not bring a piece of your wedding cake to a party unattended, because it will get eaten by a young woman with crippling anxiety. Thank you.